All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which is to say in the Paleo Hebrew, Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father, meaning He is, Bahashem, which means in the name, Yahweh Shai, which means He is our salvation. And those are the names of who the world ignorantly calls God, the Heavenly Father, and Jesus, His only begotten Son, who, by the way, only came for the Israelites, all right? Now, what prompted me to do this live right now is I read the book of Judith and the Apocrypha, and it was a siege that happened where the Syrians cut off the water to the town of Bethulia, okay? And the people, they were fainting because they was of thirst, all right? And it was a plan. It was a plan devised by the Moabites and the Edomites, all right? And they told the Assyrians to what? Cut off the water to the town of Bethulia, all right? Now I'm gonna give you a brief synopsis of what happened exactly. I'm gonna read it from the AI overview, all right? It says the Israelites and the town of Bethulia were under siege and without sufficient water for 34 days. So they had not enough water for, the necessities, okay, drinking, so on and so forth, to the point where infants were passing out, women were passing out, young men were passing out, all right? This is all in the book of Judith, the 7th chapter, all right? It goes on to read, it says, it was only at that point that the town leader, Uzziah, proposed they wait for 5 more days for divine intervention before surrendering to the Assyrians, okay? So their leaders was like, let's wait 5 more days and see if the Lord is going to show up, all right? Now, you can't tempt the Lord, okay? You cannot tempt the Lord, as it says in James 1 and 13, all right? Now, the plan was to pretty much, give the Lord an ultimatum that in 5 days, if He doesn't show up and answer our prayers, then we will surrender to the Assyrians, okay? But Judah caught wind of that plan and did not oblige to it, okay? And if you don't know about the book of Judah, she eventually, goes into the bed chambers of Holofernes, which is the general or the chief captain of the Assyrian army. And while he's inebriated, drunk, she decapitates him, all right? And she prays to the Lord for the strength to do just the, task at hand, which within 2 blows, she decapitated. She cut off his head, all right? And amongst seeing his head in the bag, the Assyrian army, took flight, okay? So the end of the story was that the Israelites were triumphant through the faith, through the righteousness of the widow Judith, okay? And they used a woman, or should I say the Lord used a woman to take down the general of the Assyrian captivity, of the Assyrian army. So back to this plan that the elders had devised for that if the Lord did not show them a sign within the next 5 days, then they would go to the Assyrians and surrender, give the city to them, okay? Because that's what the whole plan was devised for, that the Moabites and the Edomites told the Assyrians to what? Cut off the water supply to the town of Bethulia, which was inhabited by Israelites, and they will surrender, okay? Well, here's the thing. What will you do when the water is cut off? And I put in parentheses, supplies. Why? Because this cruel Lord, Donald J. Trump, is going to come up with such a device or such a surmise that this could very much well be a play at hand, okay? To do what? To cut off or start holding back resources, okay? We seen what they did with the SNAP, the EBT, okay? What do you think they're going to do once the mark of the beast is mandatory? You're not going to be getting, your water, your supplies without having that device, okay? So as was stated earlier, this could very much well be a device or a plan to what? Get you Israelites to do what? Succumb to taking the mark of the beast, all right? So the question lies, what are you going to do when the water supply or the supplies, because they can easily cut this thing off and tell you in order for you to receive SNAP benefits, government assistance, whatever it is that you need to be what? Marked with that microchip, all right? And then the question lies, what are you going to do? Okay? It goes on to read, the general or the Assyrian general Holofernes, on the advice of the Edomites and Moabites, cut off the water supply to the town of Bethulia to force their surrender. See, the siege lasts 34 days, during which time the people's water vessels were empty. Their cisterns were drying up, and people were fainting in the streets from thirst. See? So the elders, they were what's the word I'm looking for? The elders, they were at loss for words. They didn't have anything else to do. So they came up with a plan that they would just wait it out 5 more days and ask the Lord to show them a sign. And if not, they would surrender to the Assyrians. It says, overcome by thirst and despair, the people demanded that their leaders surrender to the Assyrians to save their lives. See? And this is what's going to happen, okay? It says, upon hearing this plan, it says, the devout widow Judah criticized the elders of testing the Most High and proposed her own plan to save the city, which she carried out that very night, all right? And that was to what? That was to decapitate or take off the head of the general Holofernes, okay? She executed that plan later that night, all right? So the moral of the story is, you can't tempt the Lord, all right? You got to show your faith. It says if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you can tell that mountain to move and it will move. Well, guess what? We're coming into that time, all right, where we're going to have to use and exercise our faith, our belief, all right? Because just like Bethulia and the inhabitants of that town, which were Israelites, they were faced with a 34-day siege where the Assyrians cut off all water to their vessels, their cisterns, and so forth and so on, or so on and so forth, okay? And that was a telling of the things to come, all right? Because guess what's going to happen? When your jobs are requiring you to get the chip, the RFID microchip, guess what's going to happen? When the grocery stores are telling you they can't accept payments in cash anymore, you're going to have to make that decision, all right? And ultimately, it's going to be the Lord, but if you're not of the elect, you're going to have to make that decision of taking that what? That karagma, that chip, all right? And we know once you take that chip, that's it. There ain't no coming back, see? That's why we building up our faith right now in the spirit, okay? That's why we do these lives. That's why we do these sit downs. That's why we go out on the highway and hedges, okay? Because we want the Lord to show us mercy in this time, all right? The same time that we could be out here partying it up, you know, making it about us, putting the word, the truth on the back burner, looking for other avenues and things of that magnitude, we're out here seeking the Lord, man. As it says, seek the Lord 10 times more, all right? Because we understand the severity of what's at stake here, all right? We want to be taken care of in that day, all right? That day of what? Calamity, affliction, all right? We can't tempt the Lord, okay? If the Lord do this, then we'll get right. See, that's tempting the Lord, man. Who are we, all right, to tell the Lord what to do? This is his program, all right? Lord, if you get me out of this jam, I promise I'll never smoke a cigarette again. He's not our personal genie, okay? And furthermore, he doesn't hear the prayers of sinners. So he requires something of you in order for you to even have your prayer answered, all right? And that's to return to him through his only begotten son, Yahushua, and do what's required and asked of you, okay? Because Jake got an idea or an understanding that when things start to get rough, that he can just automatically call on the Lord and the Lord's going to show up. Meanwhile, while things were going smooth, he never sought the Lord. He never sought to seek Yahweh. All right? But see, all this, I can get around to it. I'm going to put it off later on. It's going to come to an end, okay? That famine going to set in, whether it's an orchestrated famine or whether it's a natural famine, all right? It's going to achieve what it's set out to do, which is bring in that Karagma, that RFID microchip, all right? And if you ain't right with the Lord in that day, guess what? He ain't going to hear your prayers, man. You're not going to be able to tempt him. As it says in James 1 and 13, all right? The Lord cannot be tempted, okay? You can sit here and make all the promises you want if he do this, if he do that. But if it's not in your lot, guess what? You're going to end up taking that chip, all right? You're going to end up taking it because why? Your wife got the chip. She done took the children to get the chip. You ain't got no other choice. You don't have faith. You don't believe the Lord going to provide for you. You haven't been fasting. You haven't been praying. Everything you've been doing in this grace, this mercy that was bestowed upon us, you've been playing games, all right? You've been playing games, you see? And the Lord is going to require the Lord is going to require that of you when it comes that time, when it comes down to that time, all right? He's going to require, all right? Whatever deed you did, whatever goods you did according to the will of the Heavenly Father, he's going to recompense you. He's going to pay you back. So if you're doing evil out here, sinning willfully, you know, not repenting, guess what? You can expect to receive the lot of those that aren't going to be taken care of, all right? That's going to be your lot during Jacob's trouble, all right? Whereas those of us that have turned back, those of us that have showed our faith in the only begotten son, Yahushua, by doing what was required and asked of us, guess what? We're going to have a strong chance of getting through Jacob's trouble, all right? Especially if we are the elect, we're going to make it all the way through Jacob's trouble and into the chariots, all right? Because it says in Isaiah 65 and 13, my servants shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. See, that famine going to set in. They're going to shut off the cities because you ain't going to be able to go in just any old city like you can now, all right? I've been traveling out through 2 or 3 different cities right now, all right? But when you get off and leave out of town in one city to go to another city and you go into a store or what have you, they're not going to let you in. Why? because you ain't gonna have that chip, you see? It's all about whether or not you have that chip, all right? And a lot of you gonna fold under that pressure, all right? You gonna fold under that pressure, all right? That famine, them hungry stomachs, them children's stomachs growling, all right? Because that's what they did back there in Bethulia, all right? The infants were passing out because there was a famine of water. The young man was passing out. So the town was telling the elders that, hey, just surrender to the Assyrians so we can get the water cut back on. See? The same thing is going to be in your household, okay? You thought you ran your household, but you're going to find out if you made that woman your goddess, your God, hey, the Lord going to use that same woman to bring you down to the ground, okay? Because you're going to worship that woman and you're going to take that chip, all right? That's going to be your demise, your downfall, all right? So we're telling you to get right now, okay? Do what's required and asked of you now. So when that time comes ready, when that time comes, you don't have to worry about getting ready. All right, as it says in 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter, the 40th verse, make thyself ready for the battle. You see, this is what we're doing. We're supposed to be battle ready. All right, we're supposed to be at the drop of a dime, ready to go. All right, it can all happen when you're least expecting it. Okay, when you're least expecting it, the lights could go out. You could wake up and there could be no internet service. You could wake up and there could be no phone service. You could go to sleep and go to the bathroom and check your bank account and there's no money there, okay? An EMP attack can happen like that, all right? So you gotta be ready, all right? You gotta stay in the faith. You gotta stay in the truth, man, because you could never put anything past this enemy, all right? That's why it says in Ecclesiasticus 12:10, never trust thy enemy. You see? And the Edomites and Moabites, which are the so-called white man, or so-called white race, and the so-called Chinese race, they're part of our enemies, all right? It gives us a long list of our enemies in Psalms 83, all right? And we're not to trust any of them, okay? Outside of the nation of Israel, that's it, you see? So it can all go down in a matter of, the blink of an eye. The lights could just automatically shut down, all right? And all these damn heathen nations, they got it out for us. They was all in cahoots and taking us down and having us forget our name, who we were, and our powers, the names of our power, all right? That's why it's very important to call on those names, Yahweh, while Yahweh Shai, all right? And not God and Jesus, because those aren't going to get it done, all right? Those names aren't going to get it done. We got to have the true names of the Father and the only begotten Son, okay? Because, hey, siege or not, they coming with a plan, all right? And all these nations, they are in cahoots together, all right? Because why? They think once America falls, that they're going to be the rising power that takes its place, all right? Whether it's China, whether it's Russia, whether it's Africa, whatever, okay? They think once America falls, they're going to take its place, all right? And they got to understand that once Babylon the Great is fallen, as it says in the scriptures, that's it. That's the over the Israelites, okay? That's it. Ain't gonna be no more heathens ruling over us after that, all right? We got next. This is the last heathen ever rule over us, Esau Edom, the so-called self-proclaimed white man, all right? After that, we got next, all right? So the Lord got them in the trick bag, all right? And he's pretty much bringing them all to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, which means Yahweh judge, because he's gonna bring forth judgment on them. All right, when he sent back his only begotten son Yahushua, all right, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, to judge them. Okay? So we'll be no more superpowers rising up after this last heathen Edomite to rule. Okay? We got next, all right? And that's the end of it. Okay? That's how the story ends. Esau is the end of the world, 2nd Ezra 69, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. So if you give way to this damn heathen and take this device, this charagma, this charagma, the RFID microchip, you're gonna be destroyed. You're gonna be done away with. Okay? So you gotta pray to the Lord, all right, and do what's required and asked of you. All right, that's the only way you're gonna make it out of here if you of the elect and you kept the word in patience. All right, outside of that, ain't no coming back. Okay, there is no coming back. All right, this is why you gotta have fear. This is why you have to show reverence. This is why you have to do everything that's asked of you. All right, because the Lord ain't playing, man. Okay, the Lord is not playing. He's going to use this heathen. All right. So whatever it is, bring that chip forth, okay? He's going to use this heathen, this Edomite, to bring forth his RFID microchip, all right? You best believe it, okay? You best believe it, all right? And if you ain't right with the Lord, then guess what? You're going to end up taking it, more than likely, all right? And if you here in America, that's it. You finish, all right? So that's pretty much going to wrap it up on this lesson, this live of what will you do when the water or the supplies run out, all right? So get right with the Lord while you still got time, okay? Get right with the Lord while you still have time, okay? And we're going to close it up on that note. With that being said, pray someone was edified through this lesson. And until the next time, if it be the Lord's will, stay strong, stay in the faith. We're almost home. Shalom. Peace.